Ready?
What do you think?
Welcome back, everybody, to Pixel Project Radio, a special episode of Pixel Project Radio. We don't usually do things like this on the show. We're kind of more of a non-modern gaming podcast, but a game is coming out that has a lot of us, myself included, very excited. So today we are doing a first impressions on Final Fantasy XVI. And yes, I say we because I've got two of my very good friends and very great podcasters here. First, we'll just go in the order that they're in on the call, I suppose. First up, we've got Kolby from the Switch It Up podcast. Kolby, my friend, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on talk about this riveting title that's just a few days away.
It sounded so sarcastic. I know it wasn't, but it sounded so sarcastic.
I'm tired, man. I'm sorry.
And we've also got here Ryan from the List Off podcast. Ryan, thank you so much for joining me, too.
Hey, thanks, Rick, for having me on. And yes, I can't wait to talk about this completely awesome game. I'm sorry, I'm just playing off Kolby here. No, the game, yeah, can't wait to talk about it. Thanks so much for having me on, Rick.
So if you don't know, if you're seeing this title and you're kind of out of the loop, that's fine. What happened was Final Fantasy XVI dropped a playable demo, a sizable playable demo, actually. And if you're of a certain age, you might be remembering demos back in the day of just being like sort of, special levels, not like finished game levels, just something to give you a taste. It's not so with this. It's the first 2.5 hours of the actual game, along with some more fleshed out combat stuff in a secondary mode too. And it carries right over. Your save will carry right over into the full game when it releases. We all played it. We've all got some thoughts, and we're here to talk about it. Get that sweet SEO, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So let's just jump right into it. What did you guys think of this demo?
Ryan, please.
Oh, okay. Well, I was very pleased. I don't know. Final Fantasy XVI is the first Final Fantasy game I was excited for in a very long time. I've spoken on my podcast a lot about how I just... like JRPGs don't grab me in the way they used to during like that 16-bit era. But I'd been paying attention to Final Fantasy XVI kind of ever since they said they're focusing more on that fantasy aspect rather than sci-fi. And yeah, it just looks like it's completely my jam. I was very fired up going into the demo, and the demo did not let me down. Rick, you had mentioned that the save data carries over. I am so happy they did that because also, as you said, it is a sizable demo, and I think it could have been a huge misstep to have you play 2.5 hours of the game only to play 2.5 hours again. I personally enjoyed playing those 2.5 hours so much I wouldn't have minded, but it may have detracted for some other people out there. But yeah, man, my first impression is just like this demo wowed me. If I hadn't already pre-ordered, I definitely would have after. I went into it with high expectations, and those expectations were met, which can be difficult to do when you're really looking forward to something.
And when you have such discerning taste as you, right?
I also like every video game I play, so I don't know if my tastes are discerning. I could find the good in any bad game, so I wouldn't say my tastes are discerning, but I guess I do also pick and choose what I play somewhat carefully.
Nah, sure, you've got good taste, and it's nice to have somebody that's not, trying to be negative just to be a better reviewer or whatever. Well, first of all, thank you, and well said. So we've got a perspective from Ryan who, is historically not a JRPG guy. Kolby, I know that you are a huge fan of the Final Fantasy VII remake, and if memory serves, you also liked 15 a lot, I think. So what did you think of this demo?
Yeah, unlike Ryan, I didn't really track 16's development too much, and as far as what it was, because I think it was announced in 2020 officially, and I just wasn't as into the series as I am now. But yeah, pre-ordered it kind of off the rip, and then a demo came out 2 days later, and I loved everything about it. We'll obviously get into the nitty-gritty of it, but just what an experience we're in for. I mean, just something completely different from what I've played. You mentioned 7 Remake and 15. I mean, compared to what we've seen so far of the demo, that's a very lighthearted story narratively compared to what we're getting here. And just the combat was phenomenal. It was so much fun. I haven't beaten the demo yet just because I had stuff come up that I had been home, but when we hop off this, I plan on beating the demo and then playing it some more until it comes out this week. So I have nothing but good things to say about it. I'm super excited for this game and everything it brings. Like Ryan said, bringing more into that fantasy tone instead of that sci-fi that you get more with the 2 games you mentioned that I played. But yeah, I echo a lot of what Ryan said. I cannot wait for this game to come out, and this demo only validated that.
Yeah, absolutely. Spoiler alert, we're all very positive on this demo. It's really good. It's really, really good. You mentioned, both of you did, about the sort of fantasy elements. I've seen this said across the internet, but the first thing that I thought of, like watching that intro cinematic of the icons fighting, which that's what the summons are called in this game. They're called icons, EIKON. Watching those fight and then going directly into, sort of the flashback stage. Well, not directly, but into the flashback where you learn how to fight. It feels very Lord of the Rings to me.
Oh, I mean, I guess I could see that, like the big battle that plays out, and how, like, I think the camera pull over that battlefield is literally taken from the Lord of the Rings movies. Yeah, like how it pulls over the battlefield as the 2 sides meet in the middle and clash together. So I definitely see how you could get that impression.
Kind of reminded me too of like the Balrog whenever the 2 icons, Phoenix and Ifrit, are fighting.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and Kolby, like you said, this is the Final Fantasy series is so interesting because they started to get widespread acclaim whenever they started incorporating things like steampunk in 6, and then the full-on sci-fi in 7 and 8. And then, it's a series that fundamentally doesn't have an identity outside of things like mechanics and lore. And now even mechanics are being explored in new ways. So this is a grounded in fantasy setting, and I am all for it. I'm so ready to see more.
Yeah, not having an identity is kind of what makes it so special, right? Kind of why you have so many people of a wide variety of the games that they like, games that they play. And as far as like a demo goes, I haven't seen a demo like this, I guess, critically acclaimed or talked about on social media as much as this one. Like people are just loving it and they're soaking it all up. And Square Enix, talking from a business perspective, they're just on a complete heater right now with all the stuff they have coming out. Obviously, the remake projects, and then obviously 16 is going to be their big one this year. Rebirth after this, so Final Fantasy is kind of like at the peak of its popularity, I dare say. So I think this game's going to do Final Fantasy as a whole justice, and it's nice to see them go from what seemed like open. This game obviously has open world aspects, but the combat and tone as a whole seem to be very different from 15, which I think is going to draw a lot of people back in that title may have lost.
Yeah, and I just want to clarify something super quickly. When we say that it doesn't have an identity, all we mean is a sort of a presentation that is consistent, or a setting that is consistent across all of the games. That's all we mean. We don't mean anything deeper or more insidious than that, or whatever. You know what? One thing that I wanted to talk about with the 2 of you on mic is, there are a couple of things, but the writing and the voice acting. So I should have checked into this more before we started recording, but I have heard 2 different things about the writing. I have heard that it was written in English first instead of Japanese, and then localized to Japanese, meaning that the English script is the original. I've also heard, and this is kind of all sorts of weird merry-go-round, but I've heard that it was written in Japanese first, and then a localizer rewrote the script in English, and then a Japanese writer localized that script back to Japanese, which would still make the English script, the quote-unquote original. I don't know which of those is true. That second one sounds a little bit more trouble than it's worth. But all of this to say, the English script is the one. We're not getting weird localizations like we did in 10. Those days are over. And I got to say, I thought the writing was really good. Nothing crazy groundbreaking. It's not the greatest writing in the world. The voice acting is really, really good. It's really, really good.
Definitely.
But what did you guys think of the writing of the voice acting?
The writing's really good. I actually saw an article where the developers came out and encouraged people in Japan to play it with subtitles and the English dub, because the lip syncing is to the English dub, not the Japanese dub. So that's pretty interesting. So I think it gives credence to what you're saying, that it was intended. They're very much pushing this, it seems, towards Western audiences, right? But the writing's superb. Already love all the different kingdoms. They immediately bring you into this world and start talking about these two kingdoms that are warring, and you're kind of getting an idea of what dominants are and all these terms they're throwing out at you. And they use a really cool tool. I don't know if you guys discovered this. If you press the touchpad on the controller, you get the active time lore, which I was using like every 5 minutes during the game, and I was just eating that stuff up. And I think it goes beyond like the dialogue writing, right? Which is really good. Like the dialogue writing is very good, but then once you get into the lore that they're putting in this kind of hidden feature, even the writing in that is good. It really does a good job of summarizing like why this is important and why you should care.
Yeah, I mean, the foundation for the world that we're entering is pretty well set. The writing, as you said, with the voice acting, I think 7 Remake had great voice acting. I think that was kind of like the start of something new with Square Enix, getting rid of the whole old cast and bringing in new people that did an exceptional job. So coming back to riding that wave of just great performances in the voice acting, I wouldn't be surprised if we got some award nominations from this game, especially from Clive Ben Starr himself, who was phenomenal in the flashback scenes. The writing as a whole was great. Like Ryan says, I'm soaking up all that lore that this world has to offer. I mean, all the brand new stuff they introduced is so cool, and being placed in the 800s, because I think that's the time period they set this in. Just older stuff. I like the older stuff. I like the fantasy medieval aspect of it as well. So, yeah, I echo a lot of the points that you guys have made with the writing. And it being in English, I didn't know that. That's pretty interesting that they're really pushing this towards Western audiences. And from what I've seen so far, it's paying dividend.
Yeah. That active time lore is really interesting. I like that a lot. I'm such a sucker for like compendiums and dictionaries in game. It's codexes, things like that. Really, really nice. And yeah, dude, I agree completely. Clive's voice actor is doing such a great job. A lot of them are. I mean, all of them are. I don't have any issues with any of the voice acting that has been on screen so far. And
I was going to say, when I heard Sid's voice for the first time, like my jaw dropped. I couldn't believe the way he sounded.
The guy's got a good voice, for sure.
And speaking of the setting, we talked a little bit about it being set in the 1800s. Let's talk about the visuals a little bit. This is a spectacle of a game.
Yes, it is. The one thing that impressed me, this is funny because I have played some newer gen Final Fantasy games. As much as I'm like, I don't typically like, JRPGs. I did play the Final Fantasy VII Remake. I did play Strangers of Paradise recently. And the one thing that you can almost always count on Square doing is having really phoned in faces for NPCs. Like, if you notice, it's like the same, like Final Fantasy VII Remake. All these NPCs had like no facial textures. It was literally just like, we'll give them eyes, nose, and a mouth, and it'll look like a person. Don't worry about it. And same with, it's even more pronounced in Origins, because it's only like all the guys who are NPCs have the same face, and all the girls who are NPCs have the same face. And when I played Final Fantasy XVI, the demo, all the NPCs looked like real people. They looked unique. So as much as like, yes, the graphics are grand and there's lots of those like huge, incredible moments and all these grand moments, for me, it was like the quieter graphical moments that counted. I saw focus where in the past, like Square had overlooked things. And so that was pretty impressive to me. Beyond, of course, like the scale of it all and some of these incredible icon battles and everything else that you're seeing.
Yeah, I'm going to hit home on the icon battles. All the icons look absolutely outstanding. That's what this game was marketed around. That's what the plot's going to be centered around. And I love all the designs. Like, I can't even, like, just completely in the moment, capturing the moment. Like, some of the coolest designs I've ever seen, like a video game, was Shiva, Titan, Ifrit, Phoenix, all the ones we saw, even the ones we haven't seen yet. The fight in the iconic challenge, when they kind of like take possession of the icons, don't turn into them, but like kind of take on their persona with Sid and Benedicta. They looked great as well, and that cinematic was done fantastic. Yeah, visually very pleasing to look at. Nothing that you're going to get some great photo mode shots in this game. There's nothing that doesn't look out of place within the world, or just doesn't look out of place. And again, Ryan said he did a great job wrapping it up. The game looks incredible, really showing the power of the PlayStation 5 and all that. And I'm sure it got caught in hot water for only being a PS5 exclusive, but they're cashing in as far as making that worth it, as far as what you're looking at. Even in combat too, combat looks phenomenal, and some of the animation in combat and the cool combos you can do, it looks so fluid and natural. It just looks amazing.
The splashes of like magic too, when you incorporate some of those abilities, it's just like really awesome effects.
And speaking of magic too, it seems like magic in this setting, in this world that Final Fantasy XVI takes place in, is widespread. Like, it seems like most people can use magic. We see everybody from soldier classes to peasants to nobility using magic in some way in the demo, whether it's like to light a cigar, I think someone does, or put out a candle, or put water into a pail or something like that. It does not seem to be relegated just to mages or what have you.
It seemed like in Rosaria, where the game opens, almost like they were a lower class of society, right? There were a few people who had like magic users working for them, and they were treating them like crap. Like in the gardens, there was like a magic user tending the garden, and there was somebody who was like, "Oh, he'll be out of your way in a minute, sire. I apologize for like my lackey," or something like that. And it's like, oh, okay, like what's going on there? Because that kind of seems counterintuitive. I would think the magic users would just be like, dude, like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'll just use magic on you. But I'm interested to see how that plays out.
And speaking of that, there seems to be this motif of class running through the game. Mm-hmm. Not class as insofar as like how classy this game is, but it does look classy. I mean, like class as in caste systems or social structures. They play with that a lot, and I'm really into that sort of politically driven story. And this is the same team that worked on Final Fantasy Tactics, Final Fantasy XII, Vagrant Story, things like that. So it's no surprise that it's going in that direction. And yeah, I'm just really here for it. I hope they do. I hope they do something with class. They played it up with Clive in the beginning before the flashback. Then going into the flashback, we kind of learn what that mark on his cheek means, and also his mother is completely disgusted by him because he is deemed not worthy of their family blood. So lots of those motifs. I'm really looking forward to seeing where that goes.
Yeah, even before the Clive flashback, the first scene of the game, I'm pretty sure, well, it's like Clive with fire, is them having that conference as the battle's going on. So there's going to be seemingly a lot of political structure impacting what's going on in the modern day story, which admittedly in this demo didn't get a whole lot of what's going on in the modern day. We're just sent on this mission to go capture, I believe it's Shiva. We're on the battlefield, kind of heading into flashback hits, but a lot of background was fleshed out for Clive. I feel like the demo definitely from a narrative perspective was giving Clive's backstory and why you should care about this journey he's going to be going on in the modern day, but tie it back to the political structure and kings and queens and all that. It's going to be very cool to see that in action, because Clive is seemingly in the through the royal microscope is a lesser class than everybody else, even though he is blessed by the Phoenix, as they say. And I'm just excited to see where that goes. I'm excited to see what happens to Rosaria, because things didn't go so great, but I'm just excited to see where we go throughout the continent, what happens if we do get to partake in wars and epic grand battles that dictate the future of the continent that we're on.
I feel like the attention to details too just did so much for world building. It goes beyond like that active time lore, like having the little details when Clive's dad rolls up and like he has to act a certain way, right? Like he's not just like father and like hugs him and the dad's like, oh, I'm so happy to see you, boy. Like they both have this role to play in society because of that class system. And then once they're behind closed door, you kind of see them open up and be a little more affectionate to each other. And it's like,
what does he say? No need to lick my boots now, son. We're alone or something.
right, but like it's such a cool attention to detail because it makes the world feel genuine, right? It makes these systems that the world operates on feel genuine, and like I really bought in with those little details.
Yeah, well said, both of you. I don't have anything to add. I agree completely. We got to talk about the combat because that is getting a lot of talk right now, and spoiler alert, it's very good. But before we get there, I did want to shout out something that Kolby mentioned, the battle in the very beginning between Titan and Shiva. I am jaded is maybe not the right word, but I am not somebody that's overly impressed with like amazing graphics. I mean, I used to be. I just, my tastes have changed. I'm not if graphics are good, okay. If they're bad, well, okay. What does bad mean? But they looked incredible. It really gives you a scale of just how huge Titan is and how strong Shiva is for being able to contend with him so well. It's, the visual effects on this are just stunningly good.
I can't imagine like having to animate the movements of Shiva and Titan and the rest of the icons, but everything from like Shiva's facial expression to like the way she moves and throws out the icicles and the way Titan punches it. It's choreographed so well, and it just gets me so excited for. Obviously, we've seen 2 icon battles in this demo. I can't imagine like when Bahamut and Ramu and all them come in, like what that's gonna look like.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited about it. Speaking of those icon battles, you do get to partake. Well, it's technically the same one, but you get to do 2 of them in the demo. One is a sort of in medias res, and then you come back to it through the story later on. It's fine. I think it's set up to be a spectacle first and foremost. But the practical aspect of the battle is pretty much just holding down triangle. And that's really all there is to it. And then dodging sometimes, but, so, not the most exciting combat here, but it looked really good. And I think that's what they were going for.
Yeah, I would agree. It looked phenomenal. I kind of like how they use almost like that tilt shift perspective too for some of the icon shots in this. Like the way the camera's focused, especially when Phoenix like rains down on Ifrit and eventually like gets him into that underground cavern, like that chasm beneath the earth. And there's a shot when like Phoenix is dive bombing him. And it's like that, it makes it look like everything's a miniature, which like is cool because you're almost seeing it from like an icon perspective, right? But yeah, I definitely think it was meant to be spectacle. It wasn't meant to focus on gameplay. I was into it because of what the story had led us to up to that point, but it's also my understanding that all these icon battles throughout the game are going to have different mechanics. They're all going to operate differently, which is pretty cool. This is going by what other, gaming journalists have said and what's been put out in media. So I'm looking forward to how they improve upon the mechanics of this first one for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I want to keep this episode a little short, so I do want to jump into the battle system as a whole, the non-icon battle system. And I'm going to open it up to you both first, because I will say that I think it's really good, and I wasn't expecting to like it, but I want to hear what you have to say. Kolby, what did you think of this? As somebody that has spent a ton of time with Final Fantasy VII Remake.
Yeah, I'm glad you went there because I think there was some drawback or pushback when they said that Clive was going to be the only playable character. But I think for this game it's perfect with the stuff because the things you can do with him and the abilities he has with being able to wield multiple icon powers. And if you can get creative really early, which I like, and when you get into the iconic challenge, you can get really creative with some of the combos and things you can do in combat with the different icons. And I think it does a great job of setting up what's to come. It's fun to play, which is the most important part. Final Fantasy VII Remake was fun to play. That's a lot of the reason why I like it. This is going in that same direction. I heard the battle director say like this is like his masterpiece, like the best work he's ever done ever with the combat system. So that makes me even more excited for, potentially having more iconic abilities and being able to do just different types of combos. Torgal moves really well in combat. I was not expecting him to be able to do all the things he can do. And it seems like, Sid's your AI partner, seems like he actually can help you out and does stuff, which is new for, that wasn't a great part of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Characters you don't control don't do a whole lot. But yeah, the combat system it's so fun. It's so creative. There's a lot of variety and options you can do. I'm just looking forward to getting more into it. That's the only problem with the demo is that it was like 80-20 narrative combat. I'm like, God, I wish I could just play more of this game, but like I get why you guys set the story up because it's this giant spectacle. But again, I can't wait to get into those big scale battles and even iconic battles. They have different mechanics and just seeing what you can do.
Yeah, it's about 40 minutes, I think, of playing the game, and then the rest are cutscenes. You had mentioned the combat director quote. That's Ryota Suzuki, and he did call this his personal masterpiece. He worked on Devil May Cry 5 and Monster Hunter World, among others. It very well could be his PR director saying, hey, this would be a good thing to say, and him saying, yeah, sure, okay. Or it could be true. I mean, it's really immaterial because at the end of the day, it's a great feeling combat system. And I am a turn-based purist. I will always prefer turn-based just because of taste. But I love this. This is exactly what I wanted in 15 and did not get there, which is just hold circle and that's the combat. And 7 Remake is more of a hybrid. It's a command-based system with an action skin. This is pure action. Like you have combos that you can string together. You have different styles of attacks with your standard slash, your magic ability, and then your iconic slash. The evading and the parrying feels very good. The parrying in particular feels very satisfying if you can get it. It's just a damn good battle system, and I'm shocked that I like it so much, but I do.
There's a lot of depth there too that's not immediately apparent. Like by holding the attack buttons, you get more powerful versions of attacks and you can mix that in with combos. Also, some of the iconic abilities can be used as parries. I was using like the Titanic block as a parry, and he would follow up with like this almost like a boxing combo, and he would have like the Titan's hands
the
over
raging
him.
Fist, yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was just incredible, man. Yeah, a lot of depth there that I think it's going to be one of those things where, like, yes, you could just spam the attack button, but after the game's out for a while, I can't wait to see what some people are able to do with that system.
Yeah, I just came off of the heels of playing Bayonetta, and I'm not a big character action person, just because I don't have a lot of experience with those games, but that game lets you be very expressive with how you fight. And it seems like this is going to be the same. And that makes sense because Suzuki was part of Platinum. It has that Platinum DNA in it, even down to the freeze frame after certain combos. That's got that little trademark too. So this seems like it's going to be an expressive system. The only thing I don't like about it is, in the beginning, this isn't a big deal, but and to be fair, I have not done the iconic challenges. I'm just going to wait till it comes out. But watching them on YouTube and Twitch, there's just a lot. The screen gets very busy. There's a lot of numbers. There's a lot of bar. Every time you hit somebody, numbers come out. It's showing you the damage. So with that and with the amount of meters and bars on screen for you and your opponents, it's very busy. And I would rather pay attention to the animations than the numbers, which is hard to do whenever it's so busy. That's my only criticism, though. Otherwise, I really like it. It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, the numbers don't bother me.
How does this compare to Final Fantasy or Strangers of Paradise that you played, Ryan?
It seems like the next logical step. Strangers of Paradise was very much action-oriented. It wasn't turn-based in the slightest. It wishes it had the combat of Final Fantasy XVI, let's put it that way. It doesn't have the depth that the combat, even just in this demo, had. but it plays like a 3D kind of beat 'em up almost is how Strangers of Paradise plays. So this seems similar. I don't recall numbers in Final Fantasy Origins, but maybe I just have a terrible memory.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it seems like this is, like you said, a step in the right direction, the next logical step of the battle system. They're not going to go back to turn-based. That much is certain. And, that's fine, especially if they're going to, keep up with what they're doing here. Any other thoughts on the battle system as a whole, Ryan or Kolby? I don't think I have any more.
I don't either. I think we said everything that needs to be said. My verdict is it's fun. I'll be brave enough to say it. It's fun to play.
You're so brave.
Thank you.
I will say I kind of like the quick time events that happen in combat too. I don't think they're like overdone, right? It's usually a one single button press and that's it, and move on.
Yeah, and there's only a couple, or so far there have only been a couple. I could take them or leave them, but they look very cool, and I think that's what they wanted. I just have one more little shout out before we probably wrap up here. The music is done by Masayoshi Soken. Same composer for Final Fantasy XIV, did a lot of composing there. I think they were the lead composer and sound director, unless Wikipedia is lying to me. I'm going to say this. Everything there is good. I do not have a sense of the artistic voice yet. Like when you listen to Final Fantasy VII or IX, those are great examples. There is a kind of a clear idea of the voice that is there. And that's one of Uematsu's greatest strengths is his particular style. I don't have it yet. It sounds through the demo just I don't want to say generic because that is not at all the right term, but it I think just it doesn't have a voice yet to me. It doesn't stand out. It just doesn't stand out as having a solidified style just yet. It's good, but I want to hear more. That's all I have to say.
I'm not gonna pretend to speak on music or like sound direction or any of that to the level that you're able to. I'm just a 22-year-old kid who likes to listen to that music, and it sounds like a Final Fantasy game that takes place in the 800s. It has cool battle music. The one that sticks out to me is the Dragoon fight. That was epic.
Yes,
yeah, that was epic. I loved that track, and that's the one that sticks out. And I enjoy listening to it. I think it has epic moments. I'm a sucker for whenever a chorus comes in, like an orchestra. I love it. I live for that stuff. Gets my blood pumping. So I enjoyed it. I'm not gonna, but I trust your opinion and will ride with you 100% on it not having a voice because you seem like a very strong leader in that department.
I mean, I don't know about that, but no, what I mean is I'm going to be more interested in hearing. We got a ton of bombastic battle music for this demo. I am really looking forward to hearing more town themes, more character themes, incidental music, things like that to get more of a sense of the style, right? Because I haven't played Final Fantasy XIV more than 10 hours. And, from what I understand, that's barely scratching the surface, but it didn't hook me, so I'm not going to waste any more time. Anyway, but that's a different conversation. But yeah, I want to hear more is what I'm saying.
I think the music's spectacular. If I had to say what the voice was, I would think it is an ode to all Final Fantasies that have come before. There's a lot of little medleys and melodies thrown in there from prior games, notably during like the Titan and Shiva battle. You could hear the tune from the very first Final Fantasy title screen being thrown in there. And there's a lot of other melodies I noticed from prior games. That's the one that really stands out as we're recording right now. But if you listen in, like there's a lot there, and I love that. Like this is a franchise with a very storied history and tons of great music. So it only makes sense to include some of that in the tunes for this game. And I like how they've done it so far.
Yeah, good catch. Good catch. There are some of those nods in there. I think that's about all I have to say about the demo. I mean, it's good. I'm really looking forward to playing more.
I have a few real quick things I want to mention.
Yeah.
The map is incredible looking. If you've seen the map, it's again that tilt shift kind of perspective, man. I love it. There's little 16-bit characters for your party members in the corner of the pause screen, which is really cool.
That's a nice touch.
And Torgal is the best boy.
I echo all of that. I'd be remiss if I didn't say narratively, what happens at the end of that demo, I've never seen before in a video game. Like, it made me uncomfortable to watch, but I think that was the point. So with all that said, I love this demo. I would never play it again just because of that. Like, that completely threw me off guard. I've never seen something like that before in a video game. Not to say I didn't think it was bad. It was obviously really done and gave a really powerful meaning to the game, but that completely caught me off guard.
Yeah, it's very, very dark, very violent.
That is completely my jam.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm all for it.
It's good stuff. So, folks, we're going to wrap it up here. We're going to keep it under 40 minutes. So, the demo, I mean, if you haven't played it yet, I hope we've convinced you. We didn't even get into what happens in it, really. So, this is mostly spoiler-free. So, go check it out. Ryan, Kolby, thank you for joining me today. Kolby, Switch It Up Podcast. Ryan, List Off Podcast. Highly recommend both of those shows. Go check them out. And until next time, thanks everybody for sticking around for the first ever First Impressions video. First Impressions. How about that? My name is Rick Firestone. We'll see you next time.